Hello and welcome back to day 2 of the Chat for Impact Bootcamp. I hope you're all well rested and ready for today's session. For those of you who missed day 1 and are joining the bootcamp today, I'm Indrani Vedula and I manage new business partnerships at Turn.io. Yesterday, we learned about what is possible with the WhatsApp Business API and the many features of the Turn.io platform and how to use it. Today, our focus will be to understand the features in a little more detail through the advanced and technical training sessions. We will also run a session to do a recap on the onboarding process to get yourselves set up with the WhatsApp Business API. We'll also be talking about connecting data to your existing systems and other tools such as BigQuery, and also share best practices based on our experience with other services that use the Turn platform. Next slide, please. We will be taking 2 10-minute breaks during the session today. In addition to our sessions, we also have 2 very important messages to share coming from the WhatsApp India leadership team that is representing public policy and partnerships respectively. Please note that for the technical training later today, we will be conducting that as a separate Zoom meeting. If you're interested in that session, kindly sign on to that session using the link that we will share in the chat window later. Next slide, please. Great. Before we get started, here are some quick housekeeping rules to keep a note of. If you've not yet done so, please take a moment and introduce yourself and your organization on the chat window. You can simply type up org name _ full name, and you can do it now or even during the break sessions. Kindly note that all questions need to be raised in the Q&A section. Chat will be enabled during the training session. I thought that was really helpful yesterday to see your comments come through. And that way we will handle any support queries from the chat window. And these sessions are being recorded. Now, without further ado, I'd like to kick off today's session with a message from Mr. Shivnath Thukral, who is the Public Policy Director for WhatsApp India. In his earlier role, Shivnath was the Managing Director of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace India and set up the Global Think Tanks India office, leading operations and the fundraising. He spent the first 15 years of his career as a journalist with New Delhi Television Limited, which was India's premier television news channel. He's been a speaker at global events such as the World Economic Forum and the Milken Institute Conference on issues ranging from India's economic policies, domestic politics, and the impact of new digital technologies on society. He's here with us today to share with us some very impactful use cases on the WhatsApp API by government organizations and civil society.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shivnath Thukral, and I lead the WhatsApp public policy function here in India. It's a pleasure to join you all today and to be a part of this truly valuable association with Prakrit for the Chat for Impact Bootcamp 2-day event. WhatsApp enables and empowers over 400 million people every day in India. It is a platform that has helped many first-time internet users with its ease and simplicity to get connected to the world and also to become entrepreneurs. The pandemic brought about an acceleration in the use of online technologies across various segments of our society and quickened the pace of building the country as Digital India even more. Through it and all and beyond, at WhatsApp, we remain committed to working with civil society and government organizations to engage with communities through innovative solutions possible on the WhatsApp API today. We have continuously attempted at creating innovative ways of using WhatsApp API for social impact initiatives. To share a few examples with you, one of the most successful one is Diksha Tara, a Ministry of Education's WhatsApp chatbot, which acts as an in-app assistant to discover educational courses and content from Diksha for students between class 3rd to 12th. Recently, amidst the pandemic, National Commission for Women launched a 24/7 WhatsApp helpline to provide medical assistance to expecting mothers. This helpline was critical in providing life-saving support to over 750 expectant mothers across the country over the span of 2 months. One of the most impactful WhatsApp APIs which has evolved to become a singular resource guide for all things on COVID-19 relief is the MyGov COVID helpline chatbot. Over the last 1 year, over 40 million users have reached out to the chatbot to access authoritative COVID-related information around vaccines. The chatbot also provides the ability for citizens to download their vaccine certificate and will soon provide a simple way to register for vaccination. Similarly, many state governments have implemented chatbot to deliver such services. We have also seen some amazing use of WhatsApp API by civil society organizations for pandemic relief operations. For example, Introbot, an initiative of like-minded citizens in the Indian startup ecosystem, which addressed over 7.5 lakh SOS queries for verified leads for medicines, oxygens, etc. during the peak of the second wave. Similarly, the Robinhood Army leveraged API to assist senior citizens across the country in getting vaccinated. Another initiative, COVID Asha, leveraged the WhatsApp API service to provide verified information and handled almost 2,000 queries per day during the peak of the second wave and is now working to scale these services to rural India. There are many more such social impact initiatives waiting to be built, and we hope that today's session inspires you all to think about how the WhatsApp API can add to your efforts in multiplying positive impact in the society. COVID has made us realize that WhatsApp is extremely versatile and can be leveraged to drive entrepreneurship, expression, and social good. We at WhatsApp wish you all the best in similar path-breaking head start with this bootcamp and wish you all the best for the future initiatives. Thank you and good luck.
Absolutely. The pandemic definitely was a catalyst to digitizing India across various segments of our society. Thank you, Shivnath ji, for sharing great examples of innovative services on the WhatsApp Business API. I'm amazed by the scale that we can reach. 40 million users over the past year have reached out to the MyGov helpline platform for authoritative, fact-based, COVID-related information. Now that is some food for thought. Coming up, we have an amazing inspirational story from Chetna Sinha, who's the founder of Mandeshi. Mandeshi has been the channel for rural women at the grassroots to root for themselves and to find their self-respect, identity, and strive for betterment of their lives. The Mandeshi women have used technology to create opportunity in adversity. WhatsApp, as a simple and powerful tool, has helped the Mandeshi women connect, communicate, and grow their businesses digitally, and especially lend a helping hand. Let's hear from Chetna Sinha ji.
Namaste. I am Chetna Sinha from Mandeshi Foundation. We support rural women to set up their business and scale their business. For last 1.5 years, all of us have used the technology to set up the business for the children's education and in our day-to-day lives. Let me share with you the example of Preeti Bhise. She stays in a small village, sell brooms and the snacks. But she has created a WhatsApp group and could get the sales from the group and also do the digital payment. Preeti has actually taught a village women and even the sarpanch of the village to do how to do the transaction, digital transaction. And Radhika, she's a goat doctor, paravet. She does vaccination and insemination. You know what? Radhika has set up a WhatsApp group for the animal market and women are selling their animals on the WhatsApp group. Our 1.7 million, our women, 700 women have made 1.7 million masks and there is no manufacturing unit. Everything is on virtual. They have created a WhatsApp group, has established the virtual training and are doing digital marketing. I am so proud of all our women and all of you. I am sure in this bootcamp you will empower yourselves by learning the digital tools and also using and enabling yourselves with the advanced technology. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chetna ji, for sharing the journey of digital empowerment of the Mandeshi women. Now, I know that most of you have received emails from us about the onboarding process and documentation to go through for the steps that are involved. To run a quick onboarding recap and make the process crystal clear, I'd like to introduce you to Lisa Langford, Head of Impact Partnerships at Turn.io. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Andrani. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm chatting to you today from a sunny London, believe it or not. As Andrani mentioned, I'll be taking you through the onboarding steps on getting you set up onto the WhatsApp Business API. I'll be taking you through quite a few important pieces of information, but don't worry, all of this information will be shared with you afterwards. And if you get stuck at any given time, you can just reach out to our dedicated WhatsApp support line and we will help you out to getting it set up. So Manish, if you can please start my first slide, that would be amazing. So we can go on to the very first slide after. So as Simon mentioned yesterday, the WhatsApp Business Personal app and the WhatsApp Business app is slightly different to the WhatsApp Business API. I love this simple illustration. Think of the Business API as the hotel reception desk that is able to connect you, in this case, the hotel guest or your organization, to a multitude of services to engage with your end users. Your business service provider, in this case, Turn.io, would be the tool. So let's say the computer that the hotel reception desk is using to give you access and provide your team with a tool to engage with users at scale. So let's get started. What is the WhatsApp Business application? And we can go to the next slide. Thank you, Manish. So to get a WhatsApp Business line, there are a few steps that you need to consider. First of all, you need to complete your WhatsApp Business account. We refer to it as a WABA, and you'll often hear us talk about that. You would have received an email by now to go through this process. I will take you through a video later to chat you through the steps. So if you haven't received the email, again, just reach out to us and we'll make sure you get that. Once you've completed this application process, you will need to sign a contract. This contract just enables us to have all parties covered and ensure that the WhatsApp terms of service is covered and you are protected, and so is everyone using the service. This will come to you via HelloSign, an online signing document. If you're not the designated signatory, don't worry, just forward that email to the correct person in your team to sign it. And we recommend that you sign one contract per one WhatsApp Business account. Then you need to get Facebook verified. Now, this is the important step, and this is where you'll need a few documentation to submit and get verified. I'll chat you through those steps in a second. Then before the pricing plan, as part of this Chat for Impact India Bootcamp, the COVID support, we feel strongly that we want to enable you as your organization to reach out as many possible people and help them during this difficult time. We are therefore offering you a 6 months free license on Turn.io, plus a number, as well as message templates that has kindly been given by the WhatsApp team for you to reach and engage with your end users. Once that 6 months is up, you will have the deciding moment if you want to continue with Turn or not. No commitment further required. It's up to you. So let's make the 6 months work and scale you as best as we can. On to the next slide, please. So before you get started with your WhatsApp application, here's a few important things to consider and get in preparation ready. You'll need to log into your personal Facebook account. From there, you'll have to access your organization's Facebook Business Manager account or have the authorization to set up a Facebook Business Manager account. Keeping in mind that a Facebook Business Manager account is not a Facebook page. Think of it as the engine that runs underneath all your Facebook products. So if you've ever run Facebook ads or you have a multitude of Facebook products that you're using, you might probably have used a Facebook Business Manager. But if you don't worry, we'll chat you through the steps on how to get that set up. Next, you'll have to provide some business information. This will be your legal business name, the address of your business, and that you'll have to submit as well. On the fourth step, you'll need to think about a name for your service. WhatsApp's particularly clear in the type of names that you can use for a service. We have some amazing documentation that's easy to understand. We'll chat you through these regulations. But key things to consider is you can't use your personal name, you can't use a regional name, you can't use a slogan or a long description, but our documentation is pretty clear, and our team will also support you with the choice of name if you get stuck. Then you can add your business information. Now, this is what your end users will see. So here you can have a description of your program or your organization. And don't worry if you haven't finished it or thought it through yet. The good news is that you can update all of the business information on the Turn user interface after you've submitted this. And then lastly, the number. Now, as part of this, and most of you would have received, if you started with the onboarding process, an actual number, we have provisioned you with a US-based cloud number just to make the process super easy and super quick and get you onboarded. You are able to, and I know that there's been some requests for Indian numbers. If you are interested, please reach out to us and we can assist you with those steps. So to recap your checklist, you're going to need a Facebook Business Manager verification. You're going to require your business info. Think about the name that you want your end users to use. You're going to have your business info for the service and then use the number that we have provided for you. On the bottom left is a very easy to use direct link to this process. So again, if you get stuck, feel free just to click on the documentation, which we will share with you afterwards. On to the next slide, please, Manish. So let's talk about Facebook verification. Why is this important and what is it? So a business needs to be verified that and confirm that the business manager account actually belongs to the organization. So what Facebook really is checking here is authenticity. So is the organization legally represented and are they registered? An association, are you the correct person and are you working and verified for this organization? So this process will require you to submit some paperwork onto your Facebook Business Manager platform. These documentations, and most importantly, two documentations that will be required. One that states the legal name of your organization, and two, one that states the postal address or the phone number as per your application. Once you've submitted these documents onto the Facebook Business Manager portal, Facebook will go through the verification process and confirm that it's indeed you that's trying to authenticate the service. Once we've got that Facebook Business Manager ID, you're good to go. Again, bottom left will take you to the checklist and more detail for you to consider. Then I'm going to be taking you through a quick video in terms of sign up. So Manish, if you'd be so kind to get the video up for us. So most of you would have received a link to sign up to the WhatsApp business account. So you would start in by completing your organization name and adding your profile or your website. You will then be asked to sign in with a Gmail or a Google-backed account to start the process. So here you can see we've completed the impact sector and organization name. Now you're ready to get started to set up your application. You would have received an email, but you can also use this window to continue with the application. As I mentioned, you would need to sign into Facebook in your own personal account because that is what's connected to your business account. Most of you are aware that Facebook runs 2FA or two-factor authentication. So in this case, you will see that for this test purpose, the Facebook sign-in will be two-factor authenticated, and that will be then give us the options to connect further. So here the test subject is just adding the number, which is the normal code generator. And you will see that this is confirming that it is indeed Nilk. So here's your 3 steps to set up your account. You will start with your connecting to Turn. You'll just continue in this window. And now you want to say you have a new Facebook account or you have an existing one. If you want a new one, this is the legal business name, as I mentioned, that you would have to add. Now the business number is the number that we have provisioned to you. So on the left-hand side, you will see the 1+210 number, and that is the number that in this case you will complete. There's no extra charge for this number. It's included in the free offer. You will add your website address and you will add your business email address. You'll select the country, in this case, India. You'll add your address. So make sure, and from a little practical tip, make sure that the address you add is the address that's on your legal paperwork. I know sometimes a lot of us move around, but it just makes sure that all the information that you're submitting is consistent and makes the process just seamless to submit. So now your account is being set up. And at this stage, you will receive an email from Facebook that's very important, and that will go through the Facebook Business Manager verification process. So please make sure you follow those steps quite clearly. Again, if you get stuck, we're a WhatsApp away and we can help you through that process. Now, to create your profile, this is the important part, selecting an important name that you will run for your service. You can select the category that you'll run your service in, nonprofits, most of that, and you can do the business description. The one thing that cannot be changed once submitted is display name. So think carefully about that. At this stage, we need to do a verification or 2FA. This will be done via voice call. So on your left-hand side, you will see the verification code, and you will see an audio file appearing there shortly. This may take a bit of time, a few minutes, so please be patient, get yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and once the audio file arrives, it will give you a verification code. So in this case, we've got a minute to wait. So just recapping, the important things that you can and cannot change. Your display name is important. So here you can see the audio file has been received. The user's listening to the number and is able then to include this verification code right there in the window. There you can see all set up. So you've been verified and your account is now set up to continue. You will still need to do the business verification and you will get your email from Facebook to start that verification process. But nothing stops you from trying out your new number and connecting to Turn at this stage. So this means you can start prototyping, testing, and having a look around at the product while we chat today. This process and verification with Facebook can take 1 to 2 days and to get your final account set up. But once you set up, you're ready to go. It is important to remember the few things that we need to consider to get signed up to the WhatsApp Business API. So let's recap them. You've got to complete a WhatsApp Business application. You do need to require to sign a business service contract if you wish to decide to proceed with Turn.io. If you are with another service provider, please do reach out to us. We have some alternative ways that we can assist you on that. And then lastly, you need to get business verified. Once verified, and you've gone through the process, you are good to go. All of these videos and documentation will be shared with you on the events members page after the sessions today. Thank you, everyone, and hope to see the amazing services that you'll be building soon. Over to you for a 10-minute break now, Manish, I believe.
Before we go into the quick break, I just wanted to tell everyone. So we're going to take a quick 10-minute break now. But after the break is the advanced training session on this webinar. So please continue on this webinar for the advanced training session. And all those who want to join the technical training, you should be joining the link that we're sharing on chat right now. And after your technical training is completed, that's going to be held on a separate Zoom meeting. Please join back the webinar to attend the rest of the sessions. Enjoy your break.
Hello everyone. I hope you are refreshed and ready for the next session. In the next 45 minutes, we'll be discussing some advanced features of Turn.io. Let me start by sharing my screen to kick off the session. Okay, before starting this session, I just want to highlight again, if you want to attend the technical training session, the link is available in the chat window. You can click on the link and switch to that section. Remember to come back after the training session is over in this webinar. Okay, this is what we'll learn today. We'll start with a recap, then we'll look into multiple triggers and multiple actions. Post that, we'll introduce something called as threads. Then we'll see how to build our first thread, and finally we'll see how to skip questions inside threads. Same as yesterday, this is how we'll learn today. Each of the 5 sections that we have discussed earlier will have a short video followed by poll questions and then a Q&A session. Remember, you'll have 1 minute to answer each poll. Make sure that you are posting your questions only on Q&A. We'll answer a maximum of 3 questions from Q&A. Without further ado, let's start with our first video. Before going any further, let's recap what we have learned so far. We saw 3 components of any typical chatbot: the content, the keyword, and the guides. Then we took a tour of Turn.io user interface. Post that, we saw how to load content inside Turn.io. Then we covered triggers and actions. After that, we saw how to implement an automation with a starts with trigger and reply with action. Lastly, we explored the collections and how we can manage our end users. This time, we'll take a step forward to understand how can we implement multiple triggers and actions in automation. Now, let us add an automation rule for dog content. I'll go ahead and click on Add Automation, message received, and that exactly matches with the dog keyword. Reply with the message, content dog. Let's go back to our service and send a hi. I've received my welcome message. Now I'll send a keyword dog. I've received a content associated with dog. I want to trigger this action with the keyword one as well as an emoji of a dog. This is the case where we want to trigger the same action with multiple keywords. In order to add multiple keywords for a same action, we have to go inside the automation, click Edit, and add multiple keywords by adding them in new line like this. If I go back now and send a 1, I'll get my content for dog. And if I send an emoji of a dog, I should receive the same action. I want to go further this time. I want to send 3 replies to my user for a single action. That is, I want to send more information about dog as soon as I receive a keyword dog. This is where we can use multiple actions. Step 1 is adding the content that we have to send to our users. Then we'll get inside our dog automation and we'll add another action by clicking here. The action is reply with another message. The message is more information about dog. I'll add yet another action. Reply with the message, even more information about dog. And then I'll activate my service again. Let's go back and send a dog keyword to my service. There is my content associated with dog, more information and even more information about dog. Awesome. And that is how we send multiple replies for same action. Okay, that completes our first section on multiple replies. Like yesterday, let's assess ourselves by answering these poll questions. Let me select a right poll, and the poll questions are on your screens now. Remember, you have 1 minute to answer these questions. Okay, last 10 seconds. If you have not submitted your answer, please make sure that you submit it now. The time is up. I'm ending the poll now. And we have the results ready with us. Sharing the results with you now. Okay. First question, you can trigger multiple messages with a single keyword / list of keywords. Is this statement correct? Option 1, yes, this statement is absolutely correct, and 88% of you have answered it correctly. Well done. So the answer is number 1, we can trigger multiple messages with a single keyword or list of keyword using multiple actions inside automation. So that statement is correct. Question number 2, you cannot add multiple keywords for the same action. Is this statement correct? This statement is not correct. So I see that 23% of you have marked it yes, but I admit this was a tricky question. The answer is no, this statement is not correct. We can add multiple keywords for the same action. That completes our first section. Indrani, do we have questions from the audience for this section?
There's one question that was raised. We
Okay.
will have to map out what kinds of keywords our users might use in their response so that the same action is shared with them, right? That's the question.
That is correct. So you might need to add the list of keywords, or you might need to research few keywords that your users would most likely be sending you to trigger the messages. For example, for your welcome message, you can set messages such as hi, namaste, hola, or hey, or h with double I, hi. So all these combinations, people tend to send these keywords with a welcome message. So likewise, you need to research a little around the keywords that your users most likely would be sending you in your WhatsApp line. Awesome question. Any other question, Indrani?
No, we can move on to the next section.
Okay, let's head to our next section. Now that we have seen multiple actions based on content that we are sending to users, we will go ahead and understand some more action-based automation. Remember we talked about user profile section inside all conversation collections earlier? We can add or edit more custom profile fields in this section and set automation based on these values. There is a profile field called language here. Let us say I want to take a language preference from my user and update this profile field accordingly. In order to do that, step 1 is to go inside content and edit this piece of content here in my welcome message, saying, want to change your language? Send English, for English language and Hindi for Hindi language. I'll add a content acknowledging the change of language to English and yet another content acknowledging the change of language to Hindi. Now, let's set up automation for getting the language preference and updating the contact profile field. I'll go ahead and click on Add Automation, message received, exactly matching English. Now, the action should be update a contact profile field. Field is language and language is English. I'll add another action, reply with a message, acknowledging language change, and let's activate this. Let us go back to our service and send a hi. Received a nudge to change the language. I'm sending my preferred language. And I have received the acknowledgement of change of language. Let us go back to our user profile section and see whether my preferred language has been changed or not. There, my language is changed to English now. Awesome. Let's do it for Hindi language now. I'll go inside automation, message received, exactly matching Hindi this time. The action should be update a contact profile field, field is language and language is Hindi. I'll go ahead and add another action. Reply with a message acknowledging change to Hindi language. Let me send a hi to my service again and then a Hindi keyword to change my language. I've received an acknowledgement. Let's go back in my profile section. My language is changed to Hindi. Great. We have seen how we can collect the required data from the user and update the profile fields. Now, I want to send messages to my users based on their profile fields. This is where we'll use multiple triggers. Let us say I want to send a welcome message in Hindi for all those users whose user profile language preference is Hindi, and an English welcome message for all those users whose user profile language is English. Let's see how to implement that. First thing first, let's add required Hindi content that I have to send to my Hindi users. Now we set up automations. I'll go inside this welcome automation, which has welcome message in English, and try to add another trigger. This time, contact with specific profile field. Field is language and language is English. So my system will check whether the keyword is hi and the language is English, then and then only it will take further actions, which is responding to the user with welcome message in English. And then we activate it again. Let's repeat this process for Hindi language now. I'll add an automation, set trigger hi, and now I'll add another trigger, this time contact with specific profile field. Field is language and language is Hindi. Let me define an action now. Reply with the message, welcome in Hindi. Let's go back to our service. First, let me set up my preferred language to English by sending English keyword. I have received an acknowledgement. Let me send a hi to the service. There's my welcome in English. Let me again set up my language to Hindi now by sending a keyword Hindi. And there is my acknowledgement. Let me send a hi again. This is my welcome message in Hindi now. This is how you set up automation based on profile field values. Okay. Yeah, that was a lot. I understand that. But let's see how much have you grasped in this little time. by some poll questions which should be on your screens. Cross-checking these poll questions again. Okay, launching it now. You have 1 minute to answer these questions. Okay, time's up. I'm ending the poll now. Okay, we have all the results. These are the results. Awesome. Question number 1. It is possible to set an automation based on profile field values in the user profile section. This statement is correct. The answer is 2, option number 2. The statement is correct and most of you have answered it correctly. Well done. So we can set an automation based on profile field values first by adding or editing a profile field inside the collection in the all conversation collection, and then once we have that profile field, then we can add automation based on that particular profile field and the value. So the answer, the option 2 is correct. Question number 2. You cannot set multiple triggers and multiple actions inside one automation. The above statement is wrong. We definitely can set multiple triggers and multiple actions in one automation. I see 81% of you have answered it correctly, and I'm sure it's a tricky question. That's the reason why we have 19% not answering it correctly. So we can set multiple triggers inside the automation page. We can set multiple triggers and we can have different combinations of actions as well. So you can see there's a lot of options of building these automations and they're quite simple to understand. So once you are building your service, make sure that you have your use case ready and you are building multiple triggers and multiple actions if you want for your users to navigate your chat service smoothly. Okay, Indrani, question time. Do we have questions?
Yeah, we have 2 questions. So I'm just going to go through. The first one is, can I add the trigger hi in a native language as well?
Yes, definitely. You can add you can add hi in your native languages, or you can even add your content in your native language. So I think WhatsApp supports all the major languages, and you should have your native language available in the turn interface as well.
Cool. And the next one is, can we update the opt-in field using the same logic that we have for English and Hindi? Like opt-in keyword changes to profile field to yes, and opt-out keyword changes the profile field to no.
Good questions. Definitely, we can set that, and that's the reason why we have that opt-in field as well in the user profile section. How you implement it is that would be collect the user response of the opt-in, or ask them to send you a keyword, say opt-in. As soon as they send that keyword, you set that automation logic to yes, opt-in is equal to yes, and then that way the profile field gets activated automatically from that section. So in short, you can collect those opt-ins and you can update the user profile field based on the response, and then you can send messages based on that profile field.
Those are all the questions we have.
Okay, cool. Let's continue with that next section. Earlier, we looked at the basic automation and how each keyword is linked to one content element. Every time a user sends a keyword, the chatbot responds with the content associated with the keyword. So it was a one-to-one connection between the keyword and the content. Now, let us suppose we want to ask a series of questions to our users. For instance, we want to register a user as soon as we receive a message from him. User sends us a keyword called register. We ask his name, followed by his country, then his language preference. This is where the threads come in handy. A thread is a simple high-performance sequence of questions. Threads were designed to be used for registration forms, short surveys, and capturing opt-in or opt-out. There is no limit to the number of questions that you can add to a thread, but it is best used for experiences that can be completed by your users within a couple of minutes. There are a few things that we need to understand about threads. Number one, like basic automation, a thread also starts with a trigger. Unlike basic automation, threads are linear. That means it's a sequence of questions sent in a specific order. Thirdly, threads are question focused. The following content types can be used in a thread. Firstly, a text question. This is when you expect a free text response from your user. For example, the name of the user. Second, multiple choice questions. When you want to have predefined options user can choose from. For example, do you like tea? Yes or no? Threads only accept number replies from users for multiple choice questions. The last content type is a thread message. When you want to make a statement but don't expect a response, for example, a message such as your registration is completed. These are the three question-based options that you can use inside threads: a text question, a multiple choice question, and a thread message. Unlike basic automation, the threads are time-based. Once a thread is started, the user has 5 minutes to reply to each question before the thread expires. That means the user has to initiate the thread again with the trigger if he or she doesn't respond back in 5 minutes. Last thing to note here is basic automation or the global automation triggers will not activate for a user while they are inside a thread. You can treat threads as a separate local automation. That means keyword numbers used in a main menu can be reused as answer options in a thread question. If a user completes a thread or if the time since their last reply is greater than 5 minutes, the thread will end and global automation will become active again. Enough of theory, let's get into action now. Okay, before that action, let's assess ourselves by these post-poll questions. The poll questions, cross-checking all these questions again, and poll questions are in your screen now. Remember, you have 1 minute to answer these questions. Okay, ending the poll now, and these are the results. Okay, so we just realized that the first question was supposed to be a multiple choice question. Are bad. Which of the following is our correct choices? So in this case, every one of you are correct. Threads are linear, threads are time bound, and thread is activated with a keyword. So all three options are correct. So it was supposed to be multiple choice question. Sorry about that, but the good thing is all of you are correct. Awesome. Question number 2. So let me just go back to question number 1. As we've discussed, the important thing here to note is threads are time bound. That means you can think of threads as a separate system running inside the global automation. The automations that we have covered in our previous sessions, they are basically linked with each content is linked with one keyword, right? So that's what we call as global automation. But threads is a subsystem of that automation. What happens is whenever we activate thread with a keyword, what happens next is the system shifts the control to this subsystem, and thread will be activated for 5 minutes. And that means the user will have 5 minutes to respond to your thread questions if you have posted any questions there. And if the user cannot respond within 5 minutes, automatically the the subsystem switches its control back to the global automation, and that user has to initiate the threads again in order to get that question that he wanted to answer if the time is greater than 5 minutes. So that's a reason why it's time bound, because we want the global automation and the threaded automation to work in parallel. Question number 2, the time lease of thread is 5 minutes. That is, it will expire in 5 minutes and the user has to activate it again in case he or she doesn't respond in 5 minutes. And that's what we have discussed now. And this statement is correct. So thread, like I said before, is a subsystem inside the global automation, and global automation and threads doesn't work hand in hand. So at a time, one system will be activated, either it's threads or it's global automation. So whenever the user is in threads, after 5 minutes, it will expire, or if you have a particular ending thread message, then it will expire as soon as the user is at the last message. That's how it works. So you'll get more insights on that in our further videos. So the answer number 2, the option number 2 is correct, which is the time lease of the thread is definitely 5 minutes for now. Okay, I'll stop sharing these results now. Indrani, do we have questions?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. The first one is, so the keywords for the threads and global automation should be different?
Yes, the first keyword for the global automation and the thread should be different, because the system needs to identify which automation should be triggered, whether it's a global automation or the threaded automation. So it should need a different keywords.
Then does the user get a message of feedback, a thread message of feedback, if the user does not respond within 5 minutes?
Unfortunately, not. Currently, it's not the way we have. So currently, that feature is not available. But maybe in future we will have that feature wherein the user would get a prompt or maybe a heads up that 5 minutes have expired and they need to start the thread again. But currently, we don't have feature. But good suggestion. We'll take a note of it and try to implement it in our future builds.
And then is global automation disabled during threads?
Yes, the global automation is disabled during threads. Whenever the system, the user is inside the thread, he or she cannot use global automation triggers that you have set earlier.
Those are all the questions. We can move on to the next section.
Okay. Let's start with our next section. Before building a thread, let's do a quick recap on what we have learned so far. A thread is a simple, high-performing sequence of questions. Threads were designed to be used for registration forms, short surveys, and capturing opt-ins and opt-outs. Like global automation, threads starts with a trigger. A thread is linear, question-based, time-based, and local. Now, let's build this registration thread with text questions, a multiple choice question, and a thread message inside turn.io interface. Log into your turn.io account and navigate to the Content tab on the left-hand side. Click on the Threads button and add Thread. Give your thread a title and select a language for your threads. Click Save. A trigger card will open. Complete the details to specify what automation trigger will start your new thread. This works the same way as automation triggers. It just looks a bit different. And click Add. Now you will need to add content to your thread. Click on the Add Content button. There are 3 content types that you can choose from. Let us select a text question first. Complete the text question card. You will require a language, a title, and a question. You can upload an attachment by clicking on the icons below the text field. If you want to save the user's reply to a contact field, you will need to select the correct field from the Save to Contact field drop-down and click Add. Let's add another question for the country. Click on Add Content button, select a text question, and fill in the details in the question card. Once you are done, click Add. Now we want to add a multiple choice question. Click on Add Content and complete the multiple choice question card. You will require a language, a title, a question, and answer options. Threads will automatically add numbers to your answer options that the user needs to use to reply. You can upload an attachment by clicking on the icons below the text field, or you can also add a label. If you want to save the user's reply to a contact field, you will need to select the correct field from the Save to Contact field dropdown. You can also type a custom error message if a user replies with anything other than a number in the list of answer options. The default error message is, please reply with a number. And click Add. Now, let's complete the thread by adding a thread message. Click on Add Content, select Thread Message, complete the thread message card. You'll require a language, a title, and a message. You can upload an attachment by clicking on the icons below the text field and click Add. Review your thread by scrolling through the preview on the right-hand side. Click Save and Activate. This will activate your registration thread, and that's how we build a thread inside Turn.io. Okay, that was fast, and I'm sure that we are running extremely fast on these features. But let's quickly assess ourselves and see how much have we learned in this fast-paced training session. Okay, so cross-checking my poll questions again and launching it now. You have your last 10 seconds to submit your answers. Okay, time is up. Ending the poll now. Okay, we have results with us, sharing with you now. Cool. First question, what are the types of content that we can set inside threads? A multiple choice question, a thread message, or all of the above? The answer is all of the above. We can set a multiple choice question, we can set a question, and then we can also select a thread message. As mentioned in the video, we can select question if we anticipate an answer from the user. We can select a multiple choice question if we anticipate a answer choice from the user. And lastly, we can add a thread message when we do not anticipate a response from the user. It's like a declaration that we are sending to the user. The answer is all of the above, which majority of you have selected. Congratulations. Question number 2. You can save the response to a user profile field using which of the following content types? This one is pretty difficult. A text question, whether you can save the response using a text question or not. The answer is yes. You can set a question and you can save the response of the user to a profile field section using a text question. So answer number 1 is correct. And the second is a multiple choice question. Yes, you can get a response and save it inside the profile field section for multiple choice question as well. And lastly, a thread message. No, we cannot save a response with a thread message. Sorry, I think that there's a question, there's a confusion again. This is again it should be a multiple choice question. So answer number 1 and the option number 1 and option number 2 both are correct. So you can have responses from the user for text question and multiple choice question, and you can save it in the profile field automatically. To give you an example, if you are collecting opt-ins inside threads, for example, you want to initiate a logic wherein anybody who is not opted into your service, when messages you anything, firstly a thread will trigger wherein you will ask whether they want to opt in or not. If they and you take the options. For example, you can ask for their name with a text question saying what is your name, and whatever answer that they give you, you can save it in the profile field. Next, you can ask for whether you want to opt in to your service with a multiple choice question, yes or no. If you can save the responses you're getting from the user for a yes or a no. So for both text question and multiple choice question, you can save this response. And lastly, you can send a thread message saying thank you for registering with us, please continue to explore our bot. So that's a thread message, and we cannot save this thread message to profile field message because we are not anticipating any response for a thread message. So the correct answer should be a text question and a multiple choice question. I apologize for that as well because it should be a multiple choice question instead of a single choice question. Okay, so I'm stopping my stop sharing again this post, and we'll have questions now. Indrani, do we have any questions? I see that there was a confusion there. Yeah.
There's one question about testing of threads. So once you create your threads, how do you test them?
Like all other testing, like all other automation testing, you can build your threads and all automation in a sandbox. So you should have the access of sandbox. If not, you can just build a new sandbox inside your account, and then you can test everything there inside sandbox. If not, you can just make a thread and maybe activate it for the time while you are testing, and then switch it off while you are building that thread. So you can actually toggle. There's a toggle switch inside the thread wherein you can just switch it off and switch it on whenever you want. So while building your thread, make sure that you have toggled your switch off, and then once you are sure that everything is working fine, you toggle it on, test your stuff, and then you keep it on for your audience. I hope that answers your question.
Those are all the questions we have for this section, Manish.
Awesome. Cool. So let's move on to our last section. By default, threads follow a linear order. But what if you need to skip to another question? Let's understand this with an example. Let us say, I want to take a survey of my users about their preferred dessert. I would like to ask them whether they would prefer an ice cream or a cake for dessert. Based on their response, I'll send them the content for dessert, and then I'll give them an option to take the survey again or not. Let's implement this thread inside turn.io user interface. Go to content and then threads. Give your thread a title and language and click save. Define the trigger and add it. Now select a multiple choice question. Complete the card by adding a language. Title, say preference. Question, say what would you like to have for dessert today? And answer options, say an ice cream or a cake, and then add. Select another multiple choice question for ice cream. serve the ice cream and give options. Select yet another multiple choice question for cake. Serve the cake and give options. Set a thread message to close the survey. Awesome. Now let's zoom in and see the flow of the conversation again. Your user sends a keyword, you are taking a preference and giving options of ice cream and cake. If user chooses ice cream, you serve the ice cream and give two other options. But if your user wants a cake, you want to skip the ice cream content. Similarly, when user is at ice cream content and chooses to take survey again, you want to start the flow again. In order to jump or skip content, you have to click on the content element from which you want to make a jump from. Click on this clip icon. It will open up options for you. You have to then select the destination content. In this case, I want to jump from my preferences to cake content. Again, I want to jump to preferences from here. I'll click on clip icon and select preferences. Let's do it again for this card. And one last time for this end card. And that is how you skip questions in thread. Okay, that completes our last video. Let's run a quick poll again and then see how much have we learned from the video. Launching the poll now. Okay, ending the poll now. Please submit your answers if you have not already. Cool. We have the results with us. Question number 1. A user can only reply with a number for the multiple choice question. This statement is correct. So in case of multiple choice questions, user can only reply with a number. User cannot type anything else. In case the user types a different text other than a number, he'll be prompted with an error saying that please, the default message is please send a number associated with the option choice. You can change this error message. Even you can change it to anything you want and in any language you want. So by default it says that reply with a number. So for multiple choice question, it's just the numbered responses that are valid. Question number 2. You cannot skip a question by linking a multiple choice question with another multiple choice card. The statement is wrong. We can skip a question by linking a multiple choice question with another multiple choice card by clicking on a clip button in the options that we have in multiple choice cards. And once we do that, we can skip the questions and we can also take our users back to some other layer of questions that you want. So in a nutshell, what we have shown you is just a simple threads wherein we are giving users to select between a tea or a coffee maybe. But in real world, I'm sure that you'll be making some advanced threads wherein you want to take some quizzes or you want to profile your users. We have use cases wherein people are also assessing the need of a user based on the threads. So I imagine that you'll be building some really complex threads, but make sure that the thread should be small enough for the better experience of a user. Do not make extended threads. Do not make threads that has more than 4 to 6 questions. So that's a recommendation for the threads, but nobody stops you in adding more questions inside thread. Okay, questions, Indrani?
Yeah, we have time for 2 questions. So one is, can these threads and surveys be conducted as a voice message? So instead of typing the message, can the person have the option of sending a voice message and receive a text message as a reply?
Yes, so a user can send you a media message as well. So the system will take it as a response for that question that you have just asked to your users, and that response will be whether it's audio or a media message from your user that you are anticipating. It will be available for you to see in your all conversations collection. So in short, yes, you can get replies in media.
Then the next question is, can we have another thread? So thread inside a thread, like a nested thread.
That's a great question. And the answer would be no. We cannot have a nested thread currently, but we are planning to have it in maybe a few months. You'll have that feature wherein we can nest a thread within a thread. But in the of the features that we have currently does not allow you to nest a thread within a thread.
Would that
Good
mean
question.
that the time would be double? Like if it's 5 minutes for a thread, if it nests another thread inside a thread, would that make it 10 minutes?
We are not sure yet because we don't have that feature with us, but I'm sure that whenever we are building those features, we'll take your opinion, and anybody can give you your opinion, and we'll make sure that all those opinions and all those ideas are implemented while we are building that feature. We have this active community on LinkedIn. Make sure you join that community, and we'll be in touch with you for all the ideas that you might have for our future features that you would want to see inside Turn.io. We'd be happy to incorporate all those features.
One more question. Since you've mentioned that this is a user-initiated conversation, how can users contact us? One way I can see through scanning QR code. Wanted to know what are all the other ways that users can contact us.
Sure. So in yesterday we discussed about this in some details, wherein we discussed that there are 3 ways user can send you a message. Either they have the phone number associated with your WhatsApp line. That's number 1, and that's the most standard one. Second would be the QR code that you can just paste it in the pamphlets or in your Facebook page or in your website, and people can scan that code, and they'll be directed to your line. And the third option is a URL. So we also provide a URL for your service. Anybody clicking on that URL will be landed to your WhatsApp line. So these are the 3 essential ways as to how users can reach out to your line. We have seen great use cases from organizations such as Noora Health in India, wherein Noora Health works with the families of the patients in hospital, and they conduct these interviews, they conduct these training sessions, and inside their training session they distribute these pamphlets that has their WhatsApp line number and the QR code and the URL as well. So yeah, so there are different ways you can market your service, but these are the 3 tools that you have for your service: a number, a URL, and a QR code.
Manish, as a follow-up to that media-based question on as a response to threads, the question was like, if media can be accepted as a response, obviously the question is, can it be analyzed and a response sent in response to that?
The media that we'll be receiving from your users inside Turn.io, it will be labeled as media. That's one thing that we are doing at inside Turn.io. But In order to analyze whether uh, whether how many media items that you have received or not, or what is that media content be like outside turn, you need to get that data outside turn and analyze it yourself. I'm not sure what is the meaning of analysis when you say that, but we cannot read the media automatically. Somebody has to play it to read that media.
Yeah, I think the question was more around like based on the response that came, can we have can the thread trigger another response? So
Yes, you can just ask for a question such as you can have this implemented, like, do you want to submit a media? Please please select one or two. If a user sends you a one, then the next question would be, please send your media message. And once you receive that response, you will say, okay, thank you for that media message. Would you like to send another media message or another text message in multiple choice question? If the user sends you a one again, he sends a media again, and if he wants to end the thread, he would end the thread. So you can build that logic around it based on the multiple choices that you would give to your users. I hope that answers your question.
yes, I think they've mentioned that the question is answered. That brings us to the end of all the questions from this section.
Okay. Yeah. I know that was a lot to grasp in 45 minutes, but believe me, it will be pretty intuitive to you once you start your own once you start building your own WhatsApp bot service. Next up, we'll have a quick break, following which I'll be running a quick session to talk about how to get access to data from turn.io using a tool called BigQuery. So we'll be extending the next break as well by 5 minutes, as we are running early. We are running behind the schedule. So enjoy your 15-minute break, which will come next. Welcome back. Let us see what are the datasets that we can get from turn.io for a WhatsApp bot service, and how can we access that in this section. Let me quickly share my screen to kick off this session. Okay, there we go. Remember, we talked about insights section here. Questions such as how many messages have you sent or received, which countries users are messaging from, etc., are answered here in this section. If you click on Insights button, you'll see the short summary of your WhatsApp line on the top, data around how many users have achieved the goal, or number of active users in your line and where they are messaging from. Data around how your users are engaging with your service, and lastly, the number of open or closed conversation, and what are the type of responses and most used responses. The Insights section will cover almost all the data that you might need to understand how your service is performing. But I imagine there'll be cases when you would want to dig even deeper into your data. That is when you might want to use external tools, and one of such tools is called BigQuery. And that's what we'll discuss in our next few slides. BigQuery is a Google Cloud Platform tool. It is a fully managed serverless data warehouse that enables scalable analysis over petabytes of data. That means you can store and analyze large data sets in BigQuery. You can manage data, you can run SQL queries, and you have all access controls, etc. Let's quickly see this quick video on how to build the connection of BigQuery to Turn. Let me quickly pull up that video. There. In this section, we'll learn how to set up a Turn connection to BigQuery. BigQuery is a fully managed serverless data warehouse that makes super fast queries on large datasets. That means you can manage your entire chat data, run SQL queries on dataset, and you have controls over who can access your data inside your Google BigQuery account. Okay, enough of theory, let's get into action now. In order to connect BigQuery with Turn, we need something called as a JSON key. This JSON key is generated inside your BigQuery account. You can generate a JSON key in 4 simple steps. Step number 1 is to get an account in Google Cloud Platform by logging into cloud.google.com and get started for free. Sign up yourself and your Google Cloud Platform account is ready in no time. Head on to console and complete your billing section. That takes us to step number 2, which is creating a new project in your account. Go to your console, select a project, click on new project, give your project a name and create it. In few seconds, your project is ready and that completes our step number 2. Next step is to create a service account in your new project. In order to create a new service account, go to menu, click on IAM and admin option, go to service accounts. When you are inside your service account page, create service account. Give your service account a name and click create. Grant this service access to project by clicking on role, currently used as owner. You can grant access to other users as well. And then click done. That takes us to our final step, which is to create a JSON key in the service account. To generate a JSON key, click on 3 dots under Action and Manage Keys. It will take you to Keys section. Click on Add Key and create a new key. As soon as you click Create, a JSON file is downloaded in your local machine. This is the file that we have to upload in turn.io UI to finish the setup. Inside your Turn account, go to Settings, click Integrations, and upload the JSON file in this section. Once uploaded, the data will be streamed to your BigQuery account in few minutes. And that completes your connection. Remember, you need to have owner rights of your BigQuery account in order to access data. And you have to have a full account and not a trial account inside BigQuery in order to stream data. Yeah, that looked a bit technical, but believe me, anyone with a basic computer knowledge can do it by its own. All the steps, all the 4 steps that are mentioned in the video, which are A, you need to open an account inside BigQuery and create a project. Post that, we'll create a service account inside that project. Then we get a key, and that is the key that we want to be uploaded in turn.io settings integration sections. And once you upload that, your connection is built and all the data that we are getting from WhatsApp to your for your line will be streamed to your own BigQuery instance. For those of you who have not followed what is SQL, I imagine that there will be people who doesn't have the technical background. For those of you, SQL is a language that we can write our queries in inside BigQuery as well. So SQL is a computer language used to do analysis on data. Okay, let me share my screen again to go ahead. Okay, so once you have the connection built inside your turn.io account and with your BigQuery instance, there are 8 data sets that will be available for you inside your BigQuery console. These are, number 1, attachments. This table will contain all the URLs to your media files. Remember, we talked about media and where do you get all those URLs. All those URLs will be available here, and then you have to call an API to get all the media in your local machine or wherever you want. So that's number 1, the attachments table. Number 2 is the chats table. This table contains information on users that are engaging with your service. Thirdly, there'll be a contact detail table. It will have all the profile details for your contacts. Next, there'll be a FAQ section or FAQ table, which will have all your preloaded content and information about your preloaded content. Next, we'll have messages table. This table contains information on individual messages that you are receiving or sending from your service. So you'll have all the detailed information. For example, who is sending that message, when that message was sent, when it was updated, and what are the custom profile fields available for that user. So all this information will be available inside message tables. Next is a message attachments. This table links the message and attachment table. Then there is a message tags table. This table contains data of all your labeled messages. So remember, we can label a message inside all conversation collection, inside any conversation. We can label a message, and that labeled message will be available. The data around that labeled message will be available in this section called message tags. And lastly, we have number tags. This table contains data on all the labels for your account. So these are the 8 data sets that will be streamed to your BigQuery account. On the right hand screen that you are looking at is the way it will look inside your BigQuery instance. Once you have the connection made for yourself, these are the attachments. This is how it looks like. You'll see all these 8 attachment tables there. And lastly, you can even run your own query inside BigQuery console. That means you can get some advanced analysis from the data. For instance, if you want to get a count of number of unique users or daily count for active users and total messages, etc. All this is possible inside BigQuery. So we have few documentation on these sample queries. We'll share those documentation with you. You can go through those documentation, and then you can just copy and paste these queries, and you can have the results in the console right away inside your BigQuery instance. So that's how we are streaming data, and where we are streaming it, and what are the data sets that you have inside BigQuery. Indrani, do we have questions from the audience?
There's one question. Let me just bring that up. Is the sandbox account data also forwarded to BigQuery?
Very good question there. No, the answer would be no, because we need a live account, a live production account, in order to stream that data. So you cannot do it with your sandbox account. Any other question?
None from the audience now.
Okay, just to reiterate some of the pointers. One would be, make sure if you want your data inside your BigQuery, make sure that your billing section inside Google Cloud Platform is set up. Without a billing section, without billing details, the data will not be streamed to your account. And I imagine that you will not be working on petabytes of data, at least for now. So I don't think that the billing will be issue for you, because GCP, Google Cloud Platform, will not cost you much if you are running your data or storing your data. You are running analysis on your data or storing your data from your chat, from your WhatsApp line. So it will not cost you much, maybe $1 or $2 per month, and that should be all. In case you are not doing some really big analysis, and unless you have millions of users in your account. So if that's the case, then there will be cost associated with it. But if you are just starting and figuring out what to do next, and just demoing stuff and planning stuff, then maybe it's good to have a BigQuery account with the billing section enabled, so that you can get a sense of data and get a sense of how you can build your analysis out of it. Once you have BigQuery set up for yourself, you can do all sorts of stuff after that. You can even build custom dashboards for yourself using something called as Data Studio. We'll discuss about it maybe in your one-on-ones, or maybe if you have any questions on that, we'll discuss more about it then. But there is a lot you can do with the data that you are getting inside BigQuery, and one of the things that you can do right away would be to build dashboards from this data build custom dashboards from this data using something called as Data Studio. This concludes our session on BigQuery and data that you have from Turn.io. I hope this gave you an overview of how to manage your data. Okay, as a team, we have worked closely with more than 140 organizations build their services. Surely there are bound to be learnings from that collective experience. In the next section, Peppa Yates, co-founder and head of product for Turn.io, will share some of the best practices you should be aware of in order to create an exceptional chat service. Peppa Yates, next.
Thanks so much, Manish. Hi, everyone. My name is Pippa Yates, and I'm one of the co-founders at Turn.io. Welcome to the session on best practice. In this session, you'll learn about how to create a simple, user-friendly experience with chat and to recognize great chat content. So let's get started. We all know intuitively when we see a great experience with our own eyes, but it's hard to know how to create one yourself. So we're going to start by critiquing a couple of examples together. And by doing so, we'll break down what works and what doesn't work. So first up is one of the most important messages you'll design in your Chat for Impact service. The very first message your user sees when they interact with your organization, your welcome message. So here are two fairly different examples. On the left, you'll see the example has a welcome statement, the date and some information about the service, followed by language options, and finally, the main menu of content. On the right, we've got a greeting, some information about the service, followed by a note saying that this is a bot and not a real human, as well as a link to the terms and conditions. So I want you to have a look at these examples, and we're going to answer a poll about what content you think is most essential to include in the very first message to your users. So I'm going to give you a couple, about 20 to 30 seconds to answer this poll. Okay, so we've got a lot of answers coming in. It looks like there's some consensus. I'm just going to end the poll now. Okay, so a lot of people thinking that we definitely need a greeting and language choices, as well as the name of the service, followed by terms and conditions, and a couple of things people think are less important, such as the date the content was updated. So I'll note a couple of things about welcome messages. Firstly, beyond what is actually in the message, your welcome message sets the tone for the rest of your service. You'll notice the example on the left has quite a serious tone. It's an official government service. And it's the authoritative voice that is used that makes this information more trusted. The example on the right shows a service with a much more informal personality. Big Sis. You can immediately see that this service is designed for a much younger audience. So you'll need to think up front with all your content, but most importantly for your welcome message, what is the type of atmosphere you want to create from the get-go? What is the right tone of voice for your service and for your particular audience? Second, the user needs to be absolutely clear what this service provides. You can do so by describing what you do and what you don't do, or by showing users by including your menu of options right away. It is, of course, best practice to make sure the user is aware upfront about any data policies your organization has or any terms and conditions for using the service. Also remember that if you want to send your users notifications or message templates on WhatsApp, you'll need to collect user consent. So you should do this as early as possible so that you don't miss out on opportunities to re-engage your audience. Fourth, you guys all said language choices as the second most important thing, and that really depends on the literacy levels of your users, as well as the languages your service is available in. So you might want to ask this right up front, like in the one example, giving your user a complete choice about what to experience right from the beginning, or this could be a menu item later on, depending on your audience needs. Lastly, it is very important to make it clear whether your service is a bot or your users will be engaging with a human operator. Your users will have completely different expectations of each type of service, and it is important to set these expectations up front. Also make sure that your user always knows how they can get in touch with a human should they need to do so. Not only is this WhatsApp policy, but this is best practice for human bot handover. So the next example we're going to look at is an example of two chatbot menus. And my question for you is there such a thing as too many menu options? So please answer the next poll, and I'll give you a couple of seconds to have a look and make your choice, and then we'll break this down. Okay, let's see what the results are. Okay, so a lot of people thinking 10 to 8 is a good number. So you'll see both of these examples that we're showing are quite similar menu structures. Now, they both have a numbered list with short menu descriptions and text and emojis at the end of that menu. And they both instruct the user of what language, how to navigate or what to respond. And they both have images at the top. But you'll hear me say a lot in this session, simpler is always better. The best option is to keep your menu shorter than 6 options if you can, but up to 10 is definitely acceptable. Anything longer than that, and you're going to completely overwhelm your user in terms of their cognitive load and trying to understand all of their options that are available. So the reason 10 is an acceptable number, so WhatsApp has done a lot of research on this, and their new list functionality actually makes 10 the maximum number of items you can have in a list, as this is tested for usability. So 6 is best, but 10 is okay. Try to keep your menus very short. The next tip is a quick one. I just wanted to show you 2 different types of navigation at the end of a message. So it's really important that you never feel lost. Just like we use breadcrumbs on the web to show which page you're on a website and allow the user to navigate back, navigation on WhatsApp messages tends to be at the bottom of the message, where you can direct users either to the next most relevant piece of content or back to the main menu to orientate themselves. Okay, so the next critique we're going to do is all about content length and structure. So in total, you can send messages on WhatsApp of a total of 4,096 characters. But just to give you some sense of direction here, an SMS limit is 160 characters. A tweet is 280 characters. A Facebook post actually allows you to send 60,000 characters, but most engagement happens on posts under 50 characters. So taking all this into account and looking at the examples on the screen, what do you think is the ideal length for a chat message? We're going to do another poll, and I'll give you a couple seconds to answer. Okay, let's see what the results say. So we're seeing a lot of people around the 280, the tweet length type, a length of messages, and then second 450 characters. And a few of you thinking that you must maximize the number of characters you can send in a message. Well, one of the biggest mistakes we see teams making when creating content for chatbots and chat services is they make their content too long. Both of these examples on the left is actually content that is really long. It hardly even fits on one screen length. Keep your content as much as possible under 450 characters. That means that it will not truncate on a WhatsApp message, meaning users will not have to click the read more button to see the rest of your message. The second thing is, and what both of these examples do really well, is you should use paragraphs and text formatting options like bold, italics, and emojis to break up your content to make it easier to scan. Your users are very busy, so getting your key message across as quickly as possible is key. I know it is much, much more difficult to write simple and concise content than it is to write longer content. But honestly, if you spend the time and effort to simplify, you'll be rewarded in engagement. So the next tip I'm going to share with you is to plan for mistakes. No matter how well designed your service is and how much user testing you do up front, users will always use your service in ways that you don't expect. So make sure that you set up error messages that help your users either correct their mistake or they guide a user back to what your service can provide them. In these two examples, the service includes a note that the bot doesn't understand, and then the full menu of options that the user can choose from so they can find content that actually is available. You can also use this error handling as an opportunity to gracefully hand over from a human operator or from a bot to a human operator. The best practice with bot human handover is to always make it very, very clear to the user when you're handing over to a human and when you're handing back to a bot. You can do this by providing them ways to self-navigate again after ending the human interaction. Secondly, now that Manish has taught you all about threads, you can use a thread to gather all the information your operators may need to answer user questions so that their time answering is used most efficiently. So next, we'll chat about collecting data. So we all need to collect data to improve that we're having a social impact and that our service is being used by our target audience. But as we all know, as soon as a user feels like you're bombarding them with questions, they're going to stop answering. So let's do another poll. How many questions do you think your users will answer in one go on WhatsApp? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to answer this one. Okay, let's see the results. So you guys are getting the hang of this. The shorter, the better. I can see a lot of consensus around 3 to 5 questions, which is really great. Some of you saying less than 3, and some of you saying up to 5, and then a few saying as many as I need. So as you can probably expect, what I'm going to say, the fewer questions, the better. So only collect the data you absolutely need. And if you must, try not go over 10 questions at a time, and even fewer if you're asking the users to type a text response that requires them to think about their answer before answering. You might have thought it quite odd that we have a timeout on threads, but that is one of the ways in which we can reduce and help you keep your content short and the questions you're answering short, so that your users are more likely to answer. Other than the length of your questions, let's note a few other things about these examples in particular. It's always good to add some sort of introduction text or message before you start collecting data, as well as an outro or end message to acknowledge the user and thank them for their responses and show them that they're done with answering questions. Next, showing a user how many questions they have to answer, either explicitly by numbering them 1 out of 3, or by using a visual made from emojis, like in this one example, helps your users manage their expectations about how long it will take and how they're progressing through the survey. This makes them much more likely to complete. Lastly, you can ask free text questions or give users options to answer multiple choice, like in these examples. But always remember that it's much faster for your users to either type 1 or click a button than to respond to write their answer out in full. So unless you really need qualitative data, use multiple choice questions to make your data much more manageable and easier to analyze afterwards. Another option, if you want to expand the types of question formats you want to ask, or if you're collecting really highly sensitive information, such as someone's banking details or their HIV status, and that's information you do not want to be seen in the conversation by any human operator that are responding to these users, you may want to use a Google form or another type of web form to collect data. So you'll pop the link in your message and the user will be taken to the form where they answer before returning back to WhatsApp. It's a great way to collect really highly sensitive data or use question formats that aren't available with just text questions and buttons. The one last tip I have on data collection, and I think some of you know this intuitively when you said less than 3 questions at a time, but one of the great ways to get users to answer your questions is to weave them into the conversation so it feels more natural. One of the ways you can do this is an example of asking a user's name when they first interact with your service. But always make sure your users understand the value of giving you their data. And make sure you're giving them something valuable in return, such as personalizing the service for them based on their location, their language, or other interesting information. Okay, so now we've critiqued a couple of messages and you've got a good understanding of what both good and bad content looks like. Let's recap some of these best practices. So first of all, we talked about the personality of your service, that you need to keep your voice and tone consistent throughout the experience. You do not need to create an elaborate personality. It'll give your bot a human name. And you do not need to add humor unless it supports your key message. What you do need to do is to find a conversational tone that works for your organization and use words and phrases that your users will find easy to understand. Secondly, when you structure your content, keep your messages short and sweet, under 450 characters that are not truncated. Most users will skim read, so try to get your key message across as quickly as possible. And elaborate below further if needed. And make sure your user always knows what to do next by using navigation at the bottom of your message. Thirdly, break down lengthy topics into smaller chunks that are easy for your users to navigate and understand, like frequently asked question lists. Format your content into paragraphs and use step-by-step instructions, as well as media, such as images, videos, audio files, or PDFs, to help aid understanding. A menu of frequently asked questions is a great way to get a lot of information across in a way that is easy to understand. And you might create FAQs not only for your operators to use as quick replies when responding to people manually, but also for use in your bot. And the structure should be quite similar. Make sure they're short and written as simply as possible without any jargon. A great way to think about it is when you're writing a message, think about the fact that someone could easily forward that individual message on to someone else in their network on WhatsApp, and that user will have no context. So as much as possible, if it's self-contained, it has both the question as well as the answer, as well as places they can find additional information should they wish to, is great. Next, always answer the question in the text. Don't just link to an answer online or elsewhere. And use your media, images, videos, or audio to help explain your answer. But make sure you always include explanatory text, as your users may not want to download heavy media files, especially if they're worried about their data costs. So now that you've got some very specific tips on how to structure your messages and write great content, here are some overall tips to keep in mind that will help you plan for launch and beyond. The first is reiterating on thinking through all your errors and writing error messages, but it doesn't end there. Make sure you're periodically looking at how users are making errors and adjusting your content accordingly, adding new FAQs and new error messages for cases that you couldn't possibly have predicted. As I said earlier, no matter how well you've designed your service, your users will always use it in ways that you don't expect. Plan how to re-engage your users. You'll need to get your message templates approved by WhatsApp before you can send notifications. So you need to think through what you want to engage users with. You'll also need to make sure your service quality remains high so that you can send 1,000 notifications and more each day. So plan how you'll ramp up if you're wanting to reach more users with notifications than 1,000. Lastly, launching your service is really just the beginning. In fact, we recommend you launch with the simplest possible thing that you can, and iterate from there as you learn how people interact and what they find really, really useful. So make sure you plan time for evolving, iterating, removing content on a weekly basis after launch. So don't worry, you don't have to have written all of these down. We've also collected some really useful resources for you that will help you further develop a really, really great conversational experience. And of course, we're always here to help. So if you want, have a look at some of our demo videos, our Learn platform, and of course, please do reach out to us on our support line on WhatsApp if you need some more guidance. And last but not least, keep it simple. Thanks. If we have some time for questions, I'd like to open the floor.
Pippa, I'm just looking at the questions. I think your presentation was crystal clear and people were paying a lot of attention, so no one's actually typed up any. But I think we can give everyone a few minutes to just maybe think of questions and write it up.
Yeah, sure.
Is there anything you want to maybe reiterate from your presentation while they're adding in?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key message here is if you think your service is too simple, you're doing the right thing. You know, great design, great conversational design gets the user to their end outcome as quickly as possible. We all are very busy. We want to get value as quickly as possible. So if you think it's super simple, you're doing the right thing.
Great. There's one question. In your opinion, do you think we have a successful help desk via chatbot only using session messages?
Yes, definitely. So one of the ways that is a great way to start your service is just to open a help desk and start answering questions from your users manually. And as you learn what people are asking for, start to create a list of frequently asked questions and add those as quick replies so you can answer faster. And once you really get an understanding of what are the most top 10 questions that people ask, then start to automate a FAQ menu. That is one of the best ways you can do it. I 100% think you can run a really, really great help desk service using just session messages. If you're providing really great value, people will come back and ask more questions. But help desks are kind of like Google. A good help desk, you know it's always there when you have a question. You can just go type it in and someone will get back to you. You might not use it every day, but you're going to come back if you get a great experience. And so definitely believe that you can create great help desks with just session messages. Okay.
Another question, adding hyperlinks in the content or hashtags, do they make our content get attention?
So what we find, it really depends on your audience. There's been quite mixed response to links. So what we recommend is, as much as you can possibly keep someone in the chat experience and get their value within the chat experience, you should. If you do need to link out and take someone to a website for any particular purpose, make sure as much as possible that your links have the metadata so the user can see a preview, they kind of know what they're going to. Try and avoid very obscured links. We found sometimes users think that either they're going to be scammed if they click on a link, they don't quite know what it is, if they don't yet trust your organization. Or some of our users might be on specific mobile operator plans that are WhatsApp only. And so clicking on any data links can sometimes cost them money. So that's another reason people might not want to click on links in messages. So yeah, I recommend that as much as possible, keep someone within the chat, in the conversation, and save them having to click out. If you need to, make sure your links are can show previews so that there's some indication where the user is going to be headed and what value they'll get clicking on that link.
There's a question around how to avoid duplication of services.
So if I understand that question correctly, you mean lots of services in the market who have the same information. So I think that there's benefit to duplication of services to a certain extent, right? If you're targeting slightly different audiences, your brands are better known in different areas by different people, then it makes sense to each be giving similar information to slightly different audiences. And if there is some overlap, that's okay. If there are existing services that are trusted by your audience, that are official sources of information that you trust, maybe the MyGov service around COVID-19, for example. We've seen a lot of success with users actually sharing other WhatsApp services within their bot if users are wanting to engage with specific content from others. So we also have seen, as part of the Chatbot Impact community, the same thing happening between different nonprofit organizations who actually specialize in certain areas and have similar overlapping audiences and sharing each other's services as well. So those are things you can do to prevent duplication, but there's no harm in some duplication if you have different audiences.
Those are all the questions we have.
Okay, great. So that brings us to the end of our sessions that we have for this bootcamp. But I get the real honor of introducing Ravi Gerg, who's the director of WhatsApp partnerships in India. So Ravi came to WhatsApp after 13 years at Microsoft, where he helped scale direct and channel sales for both their SME and enterprise businesses in India. So with over 20 years of professional experience, Ravi helped scale Nazara Technologies and has managed the broadband business of Sci-Fi Limited in the early 2000s. So he's here to share his thoughts on how civic society can leverage the WhatsApp Business API. Over to Ravi.
Hello everyone. Let me begin by thanking you all for the positive social impact that your efforts help us achieve across the country. We feel honored to have had this opportunity to work alongside you. We hope the 2 days that we have planned for you have been as enriching for you as they have been for us. It has been encouraging to see several imaginative and innovative use cases on WhatsApp, especially during the pandemic. We have seen cases across vaccine locations, COVID resources, helping senior citizens, many other such cases leveraging the WhatsApp API and providing relief efforts to citizens across the country, to the remotest part of the country. India is at a very critical juncture of its digital transformation. We believe WhatsApp has an important role to play in creating a digitally inclusive India. There are several ways in which WhatsApp can actually be a driver of inclusion for the society at large, across financial services, healthcare, education. There are several things where we can actually enable through WhatsApp, which can be an answer to the challenges across the country that citizens face. The use of WhatsApp API can enable delivery of medical aid, healthcare insurance, microcredit, education, many such things, and solve for the masses, the unorganized sector, people at the bottom of the pyramid who till date have not been able to get benefit of these services. Through your consistent efforts and your institutions, we can make this come alive and impact the society and make the society thrive. We believe we are just getting started. There's still so much to look forward to. We can collaborate together, build solutions and services, and land a massive social impact on the masses at large through your organizations. The power of WhatsApp can come alive with your services, and we can collectively make an impact on the society. On behalf of all of us at WhatsApp, I'd like to thank you all once again for the participation and hope that you will continue to leverage WhatsApp for the impactful work that you continue to deliver across the society. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ravi, for reinforcing the benefits of the use of the WhatsApp Business API for services that impact multiple sectors and will solve for the masses, bottom of pyramid, and the unorganized sector in India. Here's a quick overview of what we've covered in the bootcamp over the past 2 days. Manish, can you please share the slide? Thank you. As mentioned earlier today, we will be running office hours on the 12th, 13th, and the 16th of August. So during these sessions, we will be answering follow-up questions around onboarding, product, and technical issues. So please, in our follow-up email, we'll be sending you details on how to sign up for that. So please go ahead and do that. Next slide, please. There will be a Calendly link in the follow-up email. You can use that to look at whichever slots work for you and pre-book those slots over the 12th, 13th, and the 16th. Please make sure you send your questions ahead of the session so we can cover them during the office hours. We're going to be sharing a link for your feedback on the bootcamp, and we would really, really appreciate your input. So please take some time out and fill in that feedback form for us. We'll also share the feedback form in the follow-up email in case you're not able to get access to it right now. You can reach out to us with any questions on the turn.io dedicated support line, and the details of which will also be included in the follow-up email. Please take the next few days to set up time and set up your sandbox and build a test chatbot and some basic content in it. You can also join the Chat for Impact LinkedIn community. We're sharing the link here and on the chat window, and please join the community. We'd love to have all of you there. Now, I'd like to actually have the entire Turn team turn on their videos. Excellent. We're all excited to be part of each of your journeys and cannot wait to see what you build. So from all of us at Turn, thank you very much for your time and participation at the Chat for Impact Bootcamp. Have a lovely evening.